This video we are going to see the running of the starter kit, the expo native starter kit. With this, you should be able to run expo along with the custom native modules. So that's the entire concept of this starter kit. So let's just quickly go ahead and clone this repository. We'll also try to follow the README documentation that is given over here to get the overall gist of how to work in this. So as it says, like first clone the repository, then do the packages installation. After that, we are supposed to run this, which is npm run init. So basically, it's like they would have written some script, some init script, which should do some stuff. After that, so this is, I guess, about the iOS app installation, like iOS project execution. So in this, we are supposed to do some bundle installation using gem, then run this command, and then do some other stuff. So we'll try to follow all of that. So looks like the project is initiated. Now let's switch to the directory, and the next thing that we should be doing is npm install. It's gonna take some time, but bear with me. Meanwhile, let me also open this project onto the WebStorm. Test. Coursera exponential starter kit open. Let's open this window itself. Cool. So it says that the stuff is installed. Although it says that, okay, it says the React Native Uni modules is also installed. The packages contain core Uni modules, which is fine. Now let's just do the next step, which is npm run init. Enter the name of the project. So let's try the name of the project as first expo kit. Slug name is the same thing, but basically it's like with so in the when you deploy this app, or when you kind of publish this app in expo environment, the slug name is used to construct the URL, which people can then go to and install your app. So awesome. Looks like it has done the job that it is supposed to do. Now let's try to do React Native run iOS. Oh, sorry. So before that, we have to do some bundler installation. Let's do gem install bundler. So basically what we're trying to do is, like, we are following the steps one by one. So right now we are at this step. We are installing the bundles. So essentially this is needed for to run the project in iOS, as the name also suggests. Also, let me try to open another URL, which is this one, the blog that I'm trying to follow. You don't have write permissions for this library. Great. Mm. So what am I supposed to do here? So it looks like while installing Ruby gems, I would have probably done something wrong. So I'll do this ch own, which is like own that repository, and I guess this is my username and the group name is staff. I'll simply paste this one, and obviously I have to do sudo of that. Okay, let me try to run the same command, which is install the bundler. So I hope you guys got the earlier point, because of which it was showing the error of permissioning. So it said that the Ruby gems that is installed in this device is not owned by this user, and the username is Apple. So what I did by running this command is kind of own that package. So I ran it as the root, which is sudo. So ultimately what happened is that root kind of gave this user the permission to own this directory. Anyways, so this installation is done. Now let's go back and see what is the next step. The next step is this one. Let me simply copy and paste it here. So ideally, wherever there is npm, we can simply replace that with yarn, as well as both are would do the same stuff, yarn and npm. So it should be possible with yarn as well. And yarn is from Facebook and is bit uh, you know bit latest as compared to npm. So some of the people prefer yarn as well, so it is possible both ways. Okay, anyway, so let's just open the project and see what exactly it is doing. So I'm opening package.json. So over here, so we just ran this command, right? Install iOS lib. So what it is doing is it's going to the iOS folder and then doing bundle install and then bundle exec pod install. So which is essentially doing pod installation itself, but it's using this versioning, uh, uh, so bundle is kind of a package versioning tool, if I'm not wrong. So essentially it's pod install itself, just a better way of doing that. Okay, before that we ran this script, which is npm run init. So what it did is that it removed the build first of all, and init is like, we are initializing the project, so it's fine to delete any of the folder which is not needed, since build is not pushed in this repository itself. So this command doesn't do anything, and same as this command, since pod is also not pushed, and basically it kind of removes all the generated folders and then runs the script, uh, and then once the script is completed, which is like script init.js, it also runs the script which is switch platform. We need to see what the switch platform does. So switch platform is basically for I guess switching from ejected mode to unejected mode, which is basically talked about in this blog pretty well. So I recommend you guys going through this blog and understanding what exactly it does in detail. But let's go back and see. Okay, looks like uh, still running. So anyways, let's go back in the project and see. what init does. So init, you know, as we ran it like a couple of minutes back, init kind of asks us for the project name, then slug name, and then basically, you know, with that it calls this function, which essentially uh, goes to these two folders and then calls this function, which again does some task. And as the name says, it is iterate folder and update content. It goes through all the content in the folder and then update the content within that. So essentially it is calling this function for each of the files, right? Like all of these things are mostly for, you know, kind of iterating over the files and stuff. And then for each file, uh, as the comment says, as the file add the files check that you don't want to modify. So if you don't, so it says that I don't want to modify the png files. So any other file which is not png, for all of that file it calls this function, which is a place file content. So it calls, which takes four input: file name, old name regex, and new name. So it kind of replaces the old name with new name. And let's see what the old name was. So if I see what the old name is, it is over here. So basically this project is created using expo blank as the project name and expo minus blank as the slug name. So whatever you enter in the project name and the slug name, it kind of replaces uh, the old name with the new name and the old slug with the new slug. So that's what the script does in gist. So looks like it's taking a lot of time. So anyways, like, you know, if you're watching this on YouTube, feel free to skip. Since we have the time, let's go through this blog as well. So there are two ways to, you know, clone their project. One is, so they have created this auto running script, which is create expo native app. So it does nothing but kind of clones that repository for you. And then again it talks about the same step, which is gem install bundler, which we already did. Now we are doing install iOS lib, which is taking a lot of time, probably because it's trying to download the expo kit, which is, I'm not sure why it is taking this much time. But anyways, so once this goes through, we should be able to run this command, which is react native run iOS. And if this goes well, we should be able to see the app running like this. Let's see. Yeah, so the packages are installed. Basically I skipped the installation process for you, but this command is completed now. Let's try to run the next one, react native run iOS, and see what it does. So it launched the simulator. So the first time you run react native run iOS, it's going to take some time, because, you know, it's going to compile all the iOS files that you have, you know, the pod files that you just installed and so on. So this is the one time thing which would take some time. Okay, I think there's one more important stuff that I should be talking about here. So React Native on iOS also builds the binary for you. So if you're running it on iOS, obviously since it is run iOS, that means that it is for iOS. So it would generate the IPA file, which the iOS device would understand, and it would also deploy that IPA file over here. So the binary would be deployed, and once you run npm run iOS native, then the JavaScript bundler would be started. So assume this thing to be, this thing for the native thing, like for the native modules or for the native binary, and this is just for the JavaScript. And again, there are two commands. One is for the ejected mode and one is for the unejected mode. So again, the entire concept of this starter kit is that you should be able to run expo and custom native module together. So if you are just and with that, it also kind of spoke about two different modes. One is ejected mode, one is unejected mode. So unejected mode is similar to what expo gives right now, which is like you cannot add any custom native modules. You can only play with the modules that are provided by expo. So that is unejected mode, which is just the JavaScript. Ejected mode is something that you can understand. You can understand it to be similar to normal React Native, which is not expo, the raw React Native, where you can add custom native modules and so on. So that would be the ejected mode. Now, this starter kit is uh, provides a decent balance between unejected and ejected mode. So if you start the starter kit in the unejected mode, you are basically doing things similar to expo. And if you start the same starter kit or the same project in the ejected mode, you are basically able to do any native stuff, like do native changes and so on. So yeah, it is compiling all the iOS related file. So as you can see, that .m is the Objective C stuff. So over here it also talks about running the app in the Android device, which I won't be covering this video, but probably I would be doing that in some separate video. So for that, you also need to do the similar kind of things, right? You have to perform as this says, you have to perform step 1 and step 2. Step 1 and step 2 is like this one. So these two steps are the same. And after that, you have to do npm run init, which was the next step. And then you have to do cd android and gradle w install debug. So this is same as doing install bundler and then install iOS libs, right? So basically over here we're installing all the native libraries for the Android project. So after that, it says that you have to open the Android folder of your app in Android Studio. So again, Android Studio is a requirement for this project. Uh, so there are reasons behind it. Basically, even without opening Android Studio, you should be able to run it, but there are some permissioning issues. So it's better and in fact easier to do it via Android Studio. So open Android folder of the app in Android Studio, then hit the run button. And once that is done, so once you run the run button, right, then it's basically, it would generate the APK file, which is the binary that Android devices understand, and it would also deploy the APK files onto the Android simulator or the device if it is connected to your system. So once the APK is deployed, then again you have to do either of these two, as we would be doing in this case. So basically, hitting the run button is equivalent to what we are doing right now, which is running this. Awesome. So looks like this is also done. So you can see that the app is deployed, and it says that there was a problem loading the requested app. Looks like you may be using LAN URL and blah blah blah, but don't worry about this. This basically is trying to pull some JavaScript bundle, but since the JavaScript bundle is not running because we have not started any of the native or the expo version, so hence it is crying because it doesn't know what to do now. like where to pull the stuff from. So let's do npm run iOS expo right now. Basically, we are running the app in unejected mode. So started this bundler in 19002 port and is building the JavaScript bundle. So I'm not sure whether you realized this or not. Okay, but before talking about anything, let me first make sure that the app is running. So it says that the version of the Expo app is out of date. That is one, but that cannot be the. Not sure. Let me see what is going wrong here. Okay, let me go back to the blog and see. So it says so this part we have done. Okay, there's one small thing that we forgot to do. So basically, when we did this, when we did React Native run iOS, it deployed the app onto the device. But at that very same time, it kind of also requested for the URL to fetch the JavaScript bundle from. Since that URL wasn't there, this app went into a weird state, and hence that would have caused the problem. But let me do one thing. Let me run two tabs. At one place, we'll do iOS native. Let's first try to run the native one. So this is same as the ejected mode. And on the other side of things, let me do React native run iOS. So this one is like, this command is for compiling the binary and then installing it onto the device, and this is for the JavaScript bundle. Let's just do it. And for safety, let's just kill it. It is installing the new expo kit, it is launching it, and it should ideally connect to this bundler. And looks like it got connected. So yes, there is one thing to note, is that when you are running React Native run iOS, that you have to do just once. And again, like when you do it the second time, it doesn't take time because there's no new native module that it has to compile. So yeah, so before doing this React Native run iOS, make sure that your JavaScript bundler is on. Otherwise, in some cases, and in fact, in most of the cases, it has trouble finding this bundler and connecting to it. Even though, so let's say if you run this command and this bundler is not on, it will deploy the app over here, but then that app would not connect to this bundler even if even if you start the bundler. So I hope you got the point here. So yeah, looks like the app is running, and it is a native version. So basically we just ran expo, and it is using some custom native module which required like native stuff. Let me just go to the code and show you. This apple is coming from there. So if we go and look into the code base here, I know this video is getting longer, but I think it's easier to talk about this one. So this one, React Native device info was needed, and again this is some module which required linking. Let me just quickly search about this one. So this one required linking, but since it was already in the pod file, so it got installed. So if you go and look into the pod file, because as you would have noticed, we never did React Native link of this one, but since it was already there in the pod file that was shipped along with this code base, this got installed like over here, right? So this package was already there, and since it was already there in the pod file, it got installed when we did pod install. And again, React Native link for iOS is nothing but changing this file, and in some cases some other file. Awesome. So we were able to successfully run the app in the unejected mode, where you can add native modules and stuff. You can always read this blog and see how to add a new native modules. And in case you're having any trouble, you can for sure ping in the comments. At the same time, let me try to run the unejected version now, which is also very important. So for that, I'll simply do iOS native. Let's also close this one. This should be closed. iOS expo. This is what we are supposed to run. But the first time we try to do it, it didn't run right. So, and it was crying about the expo version. So maybe that was the reason it didn't run for the first time. But let's see if it runs now. So it says that it is having some problem. Uh, as this one says that you have to uninstall the app and you have to kind of run the same command again, which would install the latest version of expo. So let me just uninstall this one. For installing, just hold on the app icon and it should show you the cross arrow. Again, let's try to run this one. So it says that it's downloading the latest version of the expo client app, which it should be deploying on this simulator. So the app is launched. It is connected to the JavaScript bundle. So hopefully things should be working now. So if you remember the when we launched the app in the ejected mode, we saw Apple over there, right? Let me go back and show it to you. So in app.js, over here we show device info.get brand. So device info comes from this package. But since this package required linking, when we are running this app in the unejected mode, which is like only expo, no custom native module, then it should not find this package, right? So ultimately it should cry over here itself. But the way it works is that for all the custom native modules, you have to create a mock file, a mock library basically, So here's the mock library that I've created for this one, and this mock library is nothing but this simple stuff. So I said that this is this is the file, and anyways, this got run. So it says that it's expo dummy device, right? So this in the ejected version it was Apple, and in the unejected version we are printing the expo dummy device. But let me click it, close it, and show it to you what really happened. So over here in the get brand we are returning expo dummy device, and that's the reason you saw expo dummy device over there. And basically, this particular library got replaced with this mock, this small, mock piece of file. And how it happens is because of this Babel configuration. So in this module resolver, just a second. So basically we create alias, right? Like the way we have created alias for different stuff. So for this, for any file that ends with this text, it would resolve to this one, right? So basically it is done using module resolver itself, but in the alias we put whatever mapping we want. So with React native device info, like if you want to mock React native device info with this file placed in this directory, then you simply write this one, right? Going forward there are better ways to do this, which is like whatever library or whatever library you want to mock, we can kind of create the same name mock. So if I would have created this file with the name of, with the same name itself, I would have created a way in which I could have simply iterated over all the files in the mock and replaced all the text of the file name and add a dollar sign in the end, and I could have simply appended all of that over here. So basically the mocks uh, replacement would be auto generated. You never had to touch babel.config.js file. But in this version, for simplicity or for more awareness, like how things are happening, it's better for you to know how it is happening. So basically, let's say if you want to mock any other file, let's say xyz, or let's say xyz is a library name, then if you want to mock it first, you have to create a mock file, and whatever functions you want to mock, you have to write it over here. And after that you have to come to this babel config file and add that stuff here. So let's say xyz is what we want to mock, right? Let's say this one, xyz, and then you can create your own file xyz or whatever. So basically wherever you put this package, it would be replaced with this mock file. So for instance, let's say if you want to mock one signal, so let's say in the ejected version of your expo project you wanted to use one signal's push notification instead of expo's push notification, in that case you can simply write one signal here and replace or write some mock file of one signal. So that's the entire concept of this the starter kit. Hope it was useful. We saw ways of running both ejected and unejected versions. For more questions, you can always read this blog and comment here, or comment on my YouTube video itself. Thank you.